Hi everyone, it's Neil McGill here, and this is the start of my garden golf series. And this is where I'm going to give you a number of different hints and tips and exercises that you can do at home to help work on your game when you're not getting out on the golf course. So today we're going to start with some chipping, something you can do out in the garden. We're going to look at the technique and some of the issues that I normally find my students struggle with when they're chipping, and the ways that they'll often try to fix this, which often can lead to more problems. So I've got a 56-degree wedge. I'll normally chip with either my gap or my sand wedge. That's where I'll do most of my chipping with. And a couple of things you want to look at in technique, especially for players who are struggling. What more often than not I will see is a player starting to put the ball further and further back in their stance and pushing the hands forwards. And when I speak to players about this, they will often say it's because they feel more confident of getting into the back of the ball with the ball further back in the stance. Unfortunately, what this does is this can lead to lots of more problems. Now, your wedges are designed with something called bounce. If I bring this in to the camera a bit closer, what bounce it refers to is the difference in angle between the leading edge and the back edge of the club, and it's a number of degrees, and this talks about how many degrees the back edge of the club sits lower than the front edge. If I sit it around this way, so this wedge here, you can see this is my 56 degrees with 10 degrees of bounce. This means that the leading edge of the club sits 10 degrees higher off the ground than the back edge of the club. And this degree of bounce is designed to help you. It gives you assistance and it prevents the golf club from digging into the turf. The problem when you put the ball back in the stance is that for every 1 degree that your shaft leans forwards, so again, this degree of bounce is measured when the shaft sits vertically. So for every 1 degree that your shaft leans forwards, you reduce the degree of bounce by 1 degree. So when you put the ball really far back in your stance, you could quite easily have 15 to 20 degrees of forward shaft leans, which means you're into a negative bounce angle, and this makes the leading edge of the club very, very sharp. Where this gives you a problem when you're chipping is that unless you strike the ball absolutely perfectly, you're either going to thin the ball through the green or your club head is going to dig and chunk into the ground. So when you're playing your chip shots, what I want you to get the feeling of is I want you to imagine when you're swinging that you're trying to get the feeling of letting the middle of the sole of the club to the back edge of the sole of the club actually feel like that is striking the ground. You'll notice that my club shaft, although there is a slight lean forwards, I do not have it really forward. I don't have the ball awful far back in my stance. My ball is more middle, even slightly forwards of middle. That has my shaft with only a very slight forwards lean, and this allows me to use the degree of bounce. And actually the other thing is, with these chip shots, you can get away, when you use bounce, you can get away with even striking the turf very slightly before the ball. Everything other than the sort of barest of barest lies, it gives you forgiveness, it gives you a margin for error. So again, feet nice and narrow. I am favouring the front foot with my weight, probably about 60%, but get out of your head any thoughts of wanting to push the hands forwards and trap the ball down. Instead, we're trying to return the shaft to a more vertical position. So as I chip a couple of balls there, trying to keep tempo nice and smooth and even, we use the bounce. I allow the sole of the club to strike in the turf. It's why when you watch top players chipping, you don't see divots coming out. They bruise the turf, and they bruise the turf because it's the leading edge that would dig into the ground, whereas the bounce in the sole of the club does exactly as it sounds. So once again, ball more centre in the stance, keep a nice smooth tempo, we use bounce, and we allow the club to slide underneath the golf ball. So this is something to have a little practice with. Whether you're able to do it out in the garden, if it's indoors, see if you've got a couple of foam golf balls or plastic golf balls, or even using a tennis ball or a sponge ball, just to give yourself that feeling. A piece of carpet mat could work, or if you have a winter mat that you would use on the golf course, and get this feeling of having the club more vertical with only a slight forwards lean, and trying to get the feeling of the club shaft getting back to more of a vertical position at impact to allow it to slide through, and again just keeping the pace even and the length of backswing and through swing equidistant as well. I hope that helps. I'm going to be back pretty much every day, just giving you some more helpful tips that you can do at home, and let's hope we can get back out on the golf course soon.